Asking me to stand in for my wife at an event like this is a bit like asking Mrs. Harry Kane to lead the England football team out.
King Charles has done it again, and this time the palace corridors are buzzing louder than ever. Out of nowhere, a royal decree has landed like a quiet thunderclap. Sir Timothy Laurence, Princess Anne's husband and one of the most understated figures in royal life, has just been granted the title of Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order, one of the highest personal honours a monarch can bestow. It's a move that, on the surface, looks polite, formal, and traditional, but those who know the Windsors know better. Nothing in this family happens without meaning. Insiders describe it as a message wrapped in velvet, and it's already sparking intense speculation. Why now? Why him? And why in such a deliberately quiet way? The announcement appeared not in a lavish ceremony, not even through an official press release, but hidden in a few lines of the court circular, the palace's daily diary that few outside royal circles ever read. That discretion, royal commentators say, is exactly the point. Royal analyst Catherine Woodbridge told us, "When something this personal and this significant is done so silently, it's usually strategic. The monarchy communicates through symbolism, not speeches." And that's what makes this move fascinating. Because while the headlines scream about royal illness, absence, and family divisions, the king seems to be rewarding something else entirely: loyalty, stability, and quiet strength. For decades, Sir Timothy has been the man in the background, polite, precise, and perpetually 2 steps behind Princess Anne. He never courted attention, never leaked, never complained. He represents a breed of royal spouse that's nearly extinct, dutiful, silent, and unwavering. And perhaps that's exactly why Charles chose now to bring him forward. "Charles is playing a long game," one former palace staffer confided. "He's tightening the circle. The people being recognized right now are the ones he trusts absolutely, not the loudest, not the flashiest, but the most loyal." That comment aligns with a growing theory among historians that this isn't just a gesture of gratitude, it's a deliberate reshuffling of influence inside the House of Windsor. At a time when both the King and the Princess of Wales are facing health challenges and the working royal roster is thinning, the crown needs solidity more than spectacle, and nobody embodies that quiet dependability more than the retired Vice Admiral, who spent 30 years standing calmly beside the monarchy's hardest-working princess. The symbolism is unmistakable. In an age when visibility equals relevance, the king has just elevated the man who has made invisibility an art. It's Charles saying, "I see you, even if the public doesn't," said royal historian Dr. Felix Harding. It's also a reminder to others inside the palace. Loyalty still matters. But here's the twist that's keeping royal watchers glued: timing. Why this week? Why, amid whispers of internal strain and discussions about succession planning? Why choose the very moment when the monarchy's image feels most fragile to highlight the quietest man in the room? Those questions, and the possibility that this silent honor could signal a deeper shift within the royal power structure, are what make this story more than just another courtly title. This could be the opening move in a far bigger strategy, one that redefines who really holds influence in the new Windsor order. And if insiders are right, this isn't just a thank you to Sir Timothy. It's a signal, a recalibration, and perhaps a warning. Stay with us, because this new title might be the first clue to a royal shakeup no one saw coming. For years, Sir Timothy Laurence has been called the shadow figure of Windsor. Always there, never seen. But now, that shadow is beginning to take form, and for many royal observers, it's about time. The man who once stood silently a step behind Princess Anne is suddenly at the centre of the royal conversation, and not by accident. King Charles's decision to elevate him to the rank of Knight Grand Cross is more than a ceremonial nod. It's a rare public acknowledgement of a man who has built his life on duty rather than visibility. Born in 1955, Timothy Laurence came from no great aristocratic line. His rise was shaped not by privilege, but by the sea. A career naval officer, known among colleagues for his precision and composure, he embodied the kind of restraint that the monarchy itself once stood for. He was never flashy, recalls a former Royal Navy associate. He commanded respect quietly. You noticed him only when everything around him started to fall apart, and he stayed calm. It's that exact quality that drew the late Queen Elizabeth II to trust him. In the 1,980 seconds, as a young officer, he was appointed as her equerry, one of the most intimate and demanding posts within the royal household. It was there that he first crossed paths with the Queen's only daughter, Princess Anne. At the time, Anne's first marriage to Captain Mark Phillips was unravelling under the relentless glare of the British tabloids. Yet amid that chaos, she found an unlikely anchor in the discreet, steady officer who understood both duty and silence. Timothy was never meant to become a headline, says royal biographer Helena Mackworth, but somehow, by staying silent, he became indispensable. When Anne married him in a quiet Scottish ceremony in 1992, stripped of pomp, press, and spectacle, it sent a message. This was a union built on substance, not ceremony. And that tone has carried through the decades. While others in the royal family were caught in public dramas, memoirs, and media wars, Sir Timothy and Anne quietly kept working. She's famously described as the monarchy's hardest working member, logging hundreds of engagements each year. And there, just behind her, steady, watchful, never out of line, is Sir Timothy. He has never spoken publicly about royal life, never granted an interview, never sought a brand or spotlight. In an age of performative modern royals, his silence has become its own kind of rebellion. "He's old-school Windsor," said one former courtier. "He reminds the king of what the crown used to be, service without self-promotion. That nostalgia carries weight. In an era where even monarchy must justify itself to a skeptical public, Sir Timothy represents the part of the institution that refuses to perform. His very existence is a statement. Not everything royal needs to be seen to matter, and that is precisely why King Charles's move feels so charged. This isn't merely about rewarding a brother-in-law, it's about affirming a philosophy. Sources close to Clarence House describe the King's admiration for Sir Timothy's measured discipline and his ability to stay dignified amid turbulence. It's the same quality the late Queen valued, the stoic endurance that once defined the royal code. But beneath the courtesy and ceremony, there's also intrigue. Multiple insiders have hinted that this elevation might signal a subtle reordering of royal influence. With Camilla increasingly visible yet controversial, and William and Catherine temporarily stepping back from public life, the king may be reinforcing another line of trust. The quiet, dependable figures who can embody stability without attracting controversy. Charles is consolidating the brand of monarchy around the virtues he believes in: loyalty, discretion, and continuity, observes Dr. Harding, the historian who's been tracking royal appointments for over a decade. This is a symbolic tightening of the ranks, less about who shines and more about who endures. The timing adds even more weight. The honour was granted during the family's summer retreat at Balmoral, where decisions are often made far from the press. No public ceremony, no photo opportunity, just a quiet entry in the court circular. In the language of the palace, silence isn't emptiness, it's precision. It means the gesture is personal, not political. Still, not everyone inside the royal ecosystem sees it as pure sentiment. Some whisper it's also a warning, a subtle reminder to those who've brought unwanted attention that the king's favour lies with those who don't need applause. This was Charles saying, "I value those who serve, not those who sell," one senior insider commented dryly. For now, Sir Timothy remains exactly where he has always been, at Anne's side, half a step behind, perfectly composed. But the sash and star he now wears across his chest change everything about how that quiet image reads. It's not just the man behind the princess anymore. It's the man the king himself has chosen to symbolize what's left of the crown's dignity. And in a royal world built on appearances, sometimes the one who stands furthest from the spotlight ends up casting the longest shadow. Coming up, what message is King Charles really sending with this silent elevation? Gratitude, strategy, or something far more calculated? Stay tuned, because this gesture might be whispering the future of the monarchy itself. Every royal honor tells a story, and this one, insiders insist, speaks louder than most. On paper, Sir Timothy Laurence's new title reads like a line from a ceremonial manual, Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order. But within palace walls, that simple line carries an unmistakable message. This is not just recognition, it's allegiance, personally declared by the king himself. Unlike most British honours, which are vetted through ministers or committees, the Royal Victorian Order operates under a single rule. It flows directly from the sovereign's hand. No government, no advisors, no public influence. It is the monarch's way of saying, "This one is mine." That alone explains why this moment has gripped royal watchers and insiders alike. The Victorian Order is Charles's private language, says royal historian Alice Henley. He uses it to draw invisible lines, to show who he trusts, who's in his inner circle, and who isn't anymore. And right now, with the monarchy under pressure from within and without, every gesture of trust feels strategic. The order itself carries history steeped in symbolism. Founded in 1896 by Queen Victoria, it was designed to honor personal service to the sovereign, not to the state, not to the people, but to the crown itself. And therein lies the intrigue. Charles has chosen to reward not a working royal with public duties, but a man whose entire power lies in his quiet, unseen devotion. Sir Timothy's inclusion among the order's highest ranks, alongside figures like Queen Camilla, Catherine, Princess of Wales, and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, effectively places him within the monarchy's inner sanctum. It's a circle defined not by bloodline, but by trust. He's now symbolically shoulder to shoulder with the women who represent the monarchy's present and future, Henley explains. That's no small statement. The timing, once again, is everything. The honor came quietly in the middle of what many at the palace privately call a period of recalibration. The king's health, the Princess of Wales's recovery, and the ongoing debate over the monarchy's role in a modern democracy have created a sense of cautious uncertainty. Every public appearance is scrutinized, every family gesture dissected. So when Charles chooses to make a move, especially one this personal, it isn't random. He's building an inner scaffolding, a senior courtier told The Times off the record. A structure of trust. He knows the institution is more fragile than ever, and he's turning to the few people who have never let him down. It's easy to overlook how rare Sir Timothy's elevation truly is. Only a handful of individuals hold the Grand Cross rank. Each appointment is deliberate, carefully weighed. And yet, in a world of glittering titles and ceremonial ranks, what makes this one so powerful is its restraint. There was no televised investiture, no staged handshake in a gilded room. The honor appeared in ink, small, formal, nearly invisible. For royal observers, that invisibility is exactly the point. It mirrors the man himself, a figure who's made a career out of staying unseen. His influence measured not in public moments, but in quiet presence. During the state funerals of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, his composure beside Princess Anne was captured in countless photographs, yet his name never appeared in headlines. He represents something Charles now seems desperate to preserve: dignity without display. That's why many within the palace see this as more than a thank you. It's a statement, one that cuts through the noise of modern monarchy. Charles is saying that restraint is still royal. A former Buckingham aide commented, "In an era when self-promotion has become currency, he's rewarding the opposite, loyalty in silence." Still, the move has left some insiders uneasy. It raises questions about who else might be quietly rising within the royal hierarchy, and what this says about Charles's long-term vision. Is this an isolated act of gratitude, or the first sign of a quiet reshuffle? One royal observer described it as a chess move disguised as courtesy. Because make no mistake, every ribbon, every medal, every subtle act of recognition within the Windsor system is calculated. It builds a narrative about what and who the crown values most. And right now, the message is clear. The king's trust is narrowing to those who serve without noise, those who understand that power in the royal world doesn't need to be broadcast, it only needs to endure. As the family prepares for a string of high-profile engagements this winter, many are wondering if Sir Timothy's new insignia, that broad blue sash and gleaming silver star, will make its first appearance on a global stage. If it does, it won't just be a medal on a chest. It'll be a signal, a quiet declaration of who the king believes represents the soul of the monarchy in its most precarious moment. And perhaps a message to those who've forgotten that silence, not spectacle, has always been the Windsor weapon of choice. In royal circles, silence often says more than any speech, and this, according to multiple palace sources, is exactly what King Charles is counting on. His quiet elevation of Sir Timothy Laurence has become one of those rare moments where the lack of ceremony feels louder than any royal fanfare. Beneath its polished restraint, the move carries the unmistakable pulse of strategy. At a time when the monarchy is under strain, battling public skepticism, internal exhaustion, and constant media noise, Charles has chosen to honor the one man who has made invisibility his calling card. Timothy represents everything Charles is trying to protect, said a longtime palace staffer. Loyalty, discipline, and discretion, the things that have kept this institution standing for centuries. And it's not hard to see why that matters now. The House of Windsor is thinner than ever. The King's health has sparked quiet concern within court circles. The Princess of Wales remains on limited duty as she continues her recovery. Prince Andrew is still persona non grata. Even the younger generation, often touted as the monarchy's future, has grown unpredictable. For a family defined by hierarchy, stability is suddenly in short supply. That's why many experts believe this latest honor is less a gesture of gratitude and more a reinforcement of the foundation. Charles isn't just rewarding service, he's building a fortress of loyalty, explained royal commentator Victoria Dean. He's surrounding himself with people who remind him of his mother's generation, restrained, unshakable, and unentangled in drama. Indeed, Sir Timothy is cut from that exact cloth. When the Queen passed, he stood beside Princess Anne through days of national mourning, composed, formal, and resolute. Cameras captured the image, the stoic daughter walking behind her mother's coffin, her husband a steady silhouette by her side. No interviews, no tears for the tabloids, just presence. The monarchy's preferred form of communication, and Charles, ever conscious of optics, seems to have taken note. Insiders say the king has grown increasingly frustrated with the culture of royal overexposure. The endless scrutiny, the social media leaks, the performative transparency that's begun to chip away at the mystique of monarchy. He believes in the power of distance, says one former aide. The royal family can't compete with celebrity culture, so he's turning back to tradition, to the quiet dignity that once made the crown untouchable. That shift explains why Sir Timothy's elevation carries a deeper resonance. It's not about rank, it's about reasserting the monarchy's emotional language, that restraint is strength and silence is authority. In a family often accused of dysfunction, Charles is publicly rewarding the one man who has never faltered, never flinched, and never sought applause. Yet, behind the palace gates, there's also unease. The timing of the honor, coming amid speculation about abdication, succession planning, and a long-term restructuring of royal duties, has raised eyebrows. Could this be the start of a quiet redistribution of influence? Some insiders think so. "Don't underestimate Charles," said a senior figure who has worked with the royal household for over 2 decades. "He plays the long game. Every appointment, every gesture, every honour, it's part of the architecture of his reign." According to that view, this might not be just about Sir Timothy. It might be about Anne herself and what her role will look like in a monarchy that's rapidly redefining itself. She has long been the institution's workhorse, admired for her no-nonsense approach and sense of duty. By honouring her husband, the king could be signalling a renewed confidence in the Anne branch of the family, a reminder that reliability, not rank, will sustain the crown through its next chapter. It's a subtle recalibration, one that contrasts sharply with the spectacle-driven model of recent years. Instead of grand gestures, Charles appears to be crafting a monarchy rooted in quiet constancy. "This is his response to the noise," says Dr. Henley. "He's showing that the crown doesn't need to shout, it simply endures." Still, royal insiders warn that such symbolism cuts both ways. By publicly rewarding silence, Charles may also be sending an unspoken warning to those who've treated the monarchy as a stage, a reminder that favour can vanish as quickly as it's bestowed. "It's a very Windsor move," one palace official admitted. "He's using courtesy as a form of control." So, as the court circular's brief line continues to ripple through royal and media circles, one thing has become clear: this was no random accolade. It was a chess piece quietly moved across the board, a move that redefines who holds real influence inside the most scrutinized family on earth. The question now isn't whether Sir Timothy deserved the honour. Few dispute that he did. It's what his elevation reveals about the king's mindset. Is Charles preparing for transition, consolidating loyalty before passing the torch? Or is this his way of declaring that the monarchy, under his rule, will find power not in the spotlight, but in the silence that has always defined it? The answer, as ever with the Windsors, won't be spoken. It'll be shown in who stands beside the crown when the cameras fade. If the British monarchy still speaks in symbols, then Sir Timothy Laurence has just been handed one of its loudest. When King Charles bestowed the Knight Grand Cross upon his brother-in-law, the insignia itself, a broad blue sash slanting across the torso, a silver 8-pointed star at the chest, became more than decoration. It was the monarch's quiet language of trust, displayed in metal and silk. For a man whose entire public existence has been defined by understatement, that single ribbon carries centuries of meaning. The Royal Victorian Order is not about celebrity, service hours, or political recommendation. It is the King's personal thank you, drawn from his own discretion. Only those who have served the crown itself, not the nation, not the government, earn it. It's as close to the King's private heartbeat as a title can get, explains royal historian Jonathan Smythe. When you receive it, you're not being rewarded for visibility. You're being acknowledged for loyalty in the shadows. And shadows are where Sir Timothy has lived most comfortably. Since marrying Princess Anne in 1992, he has operated in a role many could not sustain, constantly present, perpetually peripheral. He is not royal by birth, not a working member of the firm, and yet his composure and reliability have turned him into a symbol of the very virtues the monarchy claims to embody. "Timothy is the proof that you don't have to be loud to be loyal," says a former palace aide. "In a family full of headlines, he's the silence that holds the frame together." The timing of this recognition, however, adds an undeniable layer of intrigue. The royal calendar is entering a crucial period. The king's health continues to dominate quiet conversations within court circles. Catherine's slow return to public duty remains uncertain, and the monarchy's younger faces have retreated from the front lines. The once crowded balcony of Buckingham Palace now feels noticeably bare. Against that backdrop, this silent decoration looks less like sentiment and more like structure, a way of shoring up the image of continuity when the faces of continuity are thinning out. Sources close to the palace hint that Sir Timothy may soon be seen representing the crown in a semi-official capacity at certain state events, standing beside Anne where senior presence carries symbolic weight. Nothing is confirmed, nothing ever is, until it happens, but the suggestion alone marks a shift. It's not about giving him power, notes Smith. It's about visibility, showing that those who embody the monarchy's old code are still central to its future. That code, discretion, steadiness, sacrifice without recognition, has long been in short supply among the modern Windsors. The younger royals have embraced transparency, social media, and a touch of personal branding. The Queen Consort represents the new face of royal partnership, equal and outspoken. But Charles's latest move suggests he's steering back toward the model of his mother's reign, a crown built on distance, mystery, and endurance. The king is reminding everyone, both inside and outside the palace, that the monarchy doesn't need to explain itself, says a retired courtier who served under Elizabeth II. He's rewarding the kind of loyalty that never speaks, never demands. It's his quiet rebellion against the age of confession. I know. And yet, there is another, more personal layer to all this. Both Charles and Timothy are men of the Navy, schooled in command, structure, and restraint. They share the same rhythm of discipline that the late Queen admired. To those who know them, the honour is less a royal gesture than a private salute between two officers who've spent their lives serving institutions larger than themselves. Still, not everyone reads it as merely respectful. Some palace watchers interpret it as a sign that Charles is subtly repositioning his sister and her husband closer to the heart of the monarchy. Anne is his most trusted sibling, the one who never caused him trouble, one insider remarked. By elevating Timothy, he's strengthening her flank. It's symbolic armor. Whatever the interpretation, one fact remains. This simple blue sash and silver star have turned the quietest man in Windsor into the newest signal of royal intent. When he next appears beside Anne, polished shoes, hands clasped, eyes forward, that insignia will gleam with more than ceremony. It will speak for the king himself, a testament to constancy, a lesson to the rest. Because in an era when every royal word becomes a headline, the crown's message is now being delivered through silence. And Sir Timothy Laurence, the man who has spent 3 decades avoiding attention, has suddenly become its most eloquent messenger. But could this quiet emblem hint at something deeper, a recentering of royal power around those the king personally trusts? As the monarchy edges toward its next defining chapter, one question lingers in the air. Is this just a reward for loyalty, or the first glimpse of a new inner circle forming behind the palace gates? Royal watchers are calling it the Windsor Whisper, the small, deliberate gestures that reveal far more about the future of the monarchy than any official statement. And this latest one, King Charles's personal decision to elevate Sir Timothy Laurence, might be the clearest whisper yet. Beneath the polished language of royal protocol lies something unmistakably strategic, a recalibration of power, influence, and symbolism within the family itself. The question circulating among palace correspondents is deceptively simple. Why now? Why, after 3 decades of quiet service, would the king choose this precise moment to bring Sir Timothy into the royal spotlight? Theories abound, but they all circle the same idea, that the crown is shifting its center of gravity from visibility to trust. Charles has learned the hard way that fame and loyalty don't always align, said royal commentator Miranda Shaw. He's watched the monarchy become too exposed, too reactive. This honor is a message to his inner circle. Loyalty, even when unseen, will be remembered. Those who know the royal machinery understand that timing in Windsor is rarely coincidence. The promotion was recorded in the court circular during the Balmoral Retreat, a period when the royal family traditionally withdraws from public scrutiny. No fanfare, no press call, no photo, just ink on parchment. And yet, within hours, insiders began to buzz. That's how you know it mattered. a former equerry told us. When something is announced so quietly, it's because the message isn't meant for the public, it's meant for those inside the system. That message seems to extend beyond gratitude. It feels like reassurance. The monarchy's senior ranks have been stretched thin by illness, controversy, and absence. The king himself has scaled back appearances. William and Catherine remain semi-withdrawn. In that vacuum, figures like Princess Anne and, now, Sir Timothy are emerging as the moral anchors of the institution. They are what the monarchy used to be: dutiful, disciplined, and largely uninterested in PR, says Shaw. The contrast with others inside the royal circle is hard to ignore. Queen Camilla's growing influence has been noted, but her public standing remains divisive. Prince Edward and the Duchess of Edinburgh are steady but peripheral. Against that backdrop, Anne and Timothy represent an unpolished authenticity, the kind that feels increasingly rare. People forget that Anne is one of the only royals who commands universal respect, notes historian Felix Harding. Honoring her husband is also honoring her, a subtle reinforcement of her standing within the institution. And yet, it's impossible to ignore the deeper undercurrent. This isn't just about the past 30 years of faithful service. It's also about the next decade of royal survival. The monarchy has entered a phase where every move must justify its existence to a more skeptical public. By elevating Sir Timothy, Charles is betting on a model of monarchy that thrives on understatement, a conscious rejection of the celebrity-driven version that has defined recent royal years. He's building a symbolic firewall, an insider told us. He knows the next scandal, the next crisis, could break the institution's credibility. So he's reminding the country and the family that the crown still belongs to those who serve quietly, not those who sell their stories. It's a fascinating paradox. The honor that no one was meant to notice has become one of the most talked about royal developments of the year. And Sir Timothy, the man who has spent his life resisting attention, now stands at the center of a conversation about what the monarchy values most. Even his demeanor has become part of the narrative, the impeccable posture, the modest smile, the disciplined silence. He has become, unwittingly, the king's chosen symbol of what royal dignity looks like in an age obsessed with noise. As Britain prepares for a series of high-profile state visits, speculation is mounting that Sir Timothy may soon appear beside the king or represent him in subtle ceremonial capacities, a visible extension of the monarch's personal trust. It would send a clear signal, Harding explains. That service doesn't need a title to matter, but when it's finally recognized, it reshapes the hierarchy from the inside out. There is, however, another interpretation whispered among palace corridors, one less sentimental, more tactical. Some insiders believe Charles's gesture could serve as a quiet counterbalance to Camilla's influence. By publicly acknowledging Anne's husband, the king reminds the world, and perhaps the Queen, that the old bloodline, the Windsor siblings, still define the moral center of the crown. Whether strategic or sentimental, one thing is certain. The insignia now pinned to Sir Timothy's chest isn't just decoration, it's the king's seal of confidence, a subtle redistribution of symbolic weight inside a shrinking institution. As one palace aide put it bluntly, Charles doesn't raise voices, he raises symbols. And this one, the sash that gleams without sound, may be his most revealing yet. But as the monarchy leans ever further into silence, one question lingers in every watcher's mind. In a family where every gesture speaks volumes, who will be the next to receive the king's quiet touch of trust, and who will find themselves quietly left out? Every dynasty has its defining gesture, and for King Charles, this may be it. No televised coronation could say more than the quiet ribbon now draped across Sir Timothy Laurence's chest. It's not just a medal, it's a mirror. A reflection of what the monarchy is becoming under a king who prefers whispers to trumpets, loyalty to spectacle, and restraint to revelation. In that single act, simple, deliberate, and profoundly personal, Charles has redrawn the emotional blueprint of his reign. Gone are the days when grandeur defined royal worth. Now, it's character, endurance, silence. The king has chosen to place his trust not in those who dazzle the cameras, but in those who never needed them. And for the watching world, that choice says everything. As Britain questions the cost and relevance of its monarchy, the Crown answers not with words, but with symbols. Sir Timothy, the quiet admiral who has spent a lifetime in the background, now stands as proof that the monarchy still recognizes devotion that asks for nothing in return. "He's the message in uniform," says royal commentator Miranda Shaw. In him, the king is showing the public the kind of loyalty he wants to preserve and the kind he expects from those around him. But behind that serenity, another story hums. Inside the palace, whispers grow louder that Charles's move isn't just gratitude, it's positioning. Each honor, each subtle reshuffle helps secure the future of the monarchy beyond his own reign. He's tightening the circle, defining the legacy, one senior courtier told the Daily Express. And in that circle, only the dependable remain. It's a quiet revolution, one waged not through decrees but through gestures. In the stillness of Balmoral, in the unspoken codes of the court circular, the king has begun shaping the Windsor of tomorrow. Smaller, steadier, quieter. A crown no longer shouting for relevance, but whispering for respect. And standing at the center of that vision is Sir Timothy Laurence, not a prince, not a power player, but a man whose silence has finally been recognized as strength. His presence beside Princess Anne has always been constant. Now, it's consequential. When the world next sees him, the blue sash across his shoulder, the silver star glinting under palace lights, they won't just be seeing a decorated naval officer. They'll be seeing a royal philosophy made visible. It's the monarchy's newest paradox. The less he speaks, the louder the message becomes. In a family where every word can ignite a storm, the king has found his perfect envoy, a man who communicates everything without saying a single thing. And that may be the true brilliance of this moment. Because when the history books are written, they may not remember the noise, the headlines, or even the controversies. They may remember the ribbon that spoke without words, the one that told Britain, in a single, silent sentence, what loyalty still means in the age of spectacle. So as this chapter closes, one truth stands unshaken. In the House of Windsor, silence is no longer absence, it's power. And that power now gleams quietly across Sir Timothy Lawrence's chest. What does this really mean for the monarchy's next decade? Is this the dawn of a quieter crown, or the beginning of a power shift still unfolding behind palace doors? Stay with us. Subscribe, like, and hit the bell, because here at Sussex Side-Eye, we don't just report the drama. We read between the crowns.